Welcome back to the channel. If you're learning JavaScript, hit the subscribe and join as a member to unlock more tutorials. Today we're learning all about JavaScript variables. If you have been following along, you can stop watching the first three videos in this playlist for you to catch up on how to set up a JavaScript development environment and what you're seeing now, and be able to land on this portal. Now, as you navigate to the left, this is the application menu. And here where you could do a search and navigate inside the different features of the ServiceNow development environment or personal developer instance. Now, to start scripting, you will need to do a search scripts background. And on scripts background, this is where you will start learning your first JavaScript skill set. And as we navigate to scripts background on the left, as you click on the right, this is the content menu. And this content menu on scripts background, this is where you will be able to start scripting. And I'd like you to click the star button if you haven't done so for easy access under the favorites tab. And as you can see that it's already highlighted and it marks as favorite. And as you navigate to the top to the favorites, you can easily navigate and use this as a shortcut that will take you to the same page. Now, before we start scripting, you need to ensure that you are in Scope Global. And as you define you're ready to start scripting, I'll explain in my future videos what global scope is. And you can also figure and ensure that you are under Scope Global on the upper right on this globe icon. And by clicking this arrow, it's either doing a search and clicking global to be under the global scope. Now that we have that out of the way, I'd like to start on describing what a variable is. In JavaScript, a variable is just a container of storing data. So think of it like a box. And inside the box, that is where you put something valuable. And this box, you will need to put a label to identify what is inside the box. And later, you can reuse it or even change it. And this concept, we can use the scripts background to start experimenting it. And this skill set that you'll be learning about variables is something that you will be using both as a beginner and as an advanced user of JavaScript. So let us clear this view. Before we deep dive into variables, let's talk about comments. Comments are notes we put in our code to explain what it's doing. JavaScript ignores comments when it runs the code. They're just for humans to be able to read. And imagine you may have thousands of code and it is hard to remember and identify what is the code doing. And as you can see now, this is a comment and it turns into green. And as we basically remove the slash, and you can see that the technology already detects that the script is improperly written. And we need to return the double slashes that the script isn't in the correct form. So form and structure is quite important in scripting in JavaScript. So think of it like a puzzle. And if a puzzle is not meant to be in that specific location, then it will not fit. And same as JavaScript, the framework or the technology detects if the syntax is wrong. Syntax means it is a snippet, a code snippet with a certain behavior or action that it needs to implement. So there are two types of comment. This is an inline comment, and the other one is a multi-line comment. And you can basically encapsulate that using asterisk and backslash. And in the middle, you could write down multiple lines of code. And you may have a chunk of code or notes depending on what you're trying to convey. You can be speaking to your teammates for readability of your scripts. So you can either use a single line comment or a multi-line comment. Now, as we type in like sample code, like GS info, and as we type it inside the comment, then you will see that it is basically part of your notes or multiple line comment. Now let us copy this one and paste it outside the multi-line comment, and you will see the color has changed. And now let us try to run the script on the lower left. And as we run it, and as you can see that it has printed our script. And as we go back to the script's background and retype the script that we created and add an inline comment, and if you run the script, then you will see it is empty. Now let us go back to the script's background by clicking this link here on the left. Now let's start with variables. Variables in JavaScript, you always start with keywords. And in this example, we can use var, and let's put a variable name, and let's say test variable. So what you see on the left is like keywords are reserved words that have a special meaning and purpose within the JavaScript language. These words are fundamental to JavaScript's structure and functionality. And this is how the machine is interpreting and how it is executed. And there are quite a few keywords, like how you are utilizing it. An example is like what you see as var, then you have let, constant, if, else, for, while, and so on. Now, those keywords are reserved and you cannot use them as variable names like what you're seeing now. And the framework will help you identify if it's a JavaScript keyword or reserved keyword or not. So an example is like you have the var keyword that will declare variable. Now, if you put a let inside or an if, then you will see a red squiggly line will appear. And as you highlight, the framework also provides you information that gives you a guide. And these guides are very helpful in your learning and even as an advanced developer to remind you that you are improperly structuring the syntax. And now let's test this variable by using gs.info. And inside the parentheses, we're going to put this variable name inside, and let's end this with a semicolon. And as we run the script, you will notice that it has printed an undefined. And by default, variable that you have created, which is empty, defaults to undefined. Now let us go back to the script pane and put something inside the variable. And let us basically change the name. And I will put my name in this instance and put my name Bill and change the name to like name. So now you will see that the variable name is containing Bill, and as we print it, then basically it will print the content of the variable. Now let us go back to the script's background and repaste our previous code. And I'd like to emphasize just a quick note on what is gs.info. And gs.info is a function in ServiceNow. This is a JavaScript syntax sitting in the ServiceNow framework. So in JavaScript as a language, you have JavaScript, let's say, and this JavaScript will contain all the feature set, the scripts, the syntax of JavaScript. Then you can utilize a library which is sitting on top of JavaScript, which is the ServiceNow library. And as you basically notice, since they are the ServiceNow library sitting on top of JavaScript, then hand in hand, you can utilize two technologies at the same time. And the main advantage of libraries, so these are also containers that will have the different technologies and feature set. And I don't want you to worry about this right now. And you will be building libraries as you learn your course. Now to explain further, in ServiceNow gs.info syntax, that you print the message into the system logs. Think of it as a developer's microphone. So it lets you check on what's happening. On this example, we are utilizing it to represent the behavior or what will be printed out using the name variable. So let us add more examples. And variables are flexible. You can also start with counter. And let's say this in this instance, it will be now a number. And as you can basically also print this variable at the same time and put the full name inside the print. And it will do exactly the same behavior as the first two lines of code. And we could add more description by concatenating a string into the value of the variable. So let us say this is first value and put a space. And to make the structure correctly is we put a plus sign. That means concatenation, we are joining two variables together. And as we run the script, then it will print this statement using the gs.info syntax. So what you're seeing here, this is another structure of a variable contained inside the gs.info function. And later on, you will get to learn about functions, so you don't have to worry about this right now. And before we run the script, I'd like you to observe that you can also change the values of the variable from this counter to put 1 and the second value of the variable will be 2. And as you print them, both of this behavior will definitely work. And as you've noticed that we have added a comment to give guidance on the behavior of this script. Now, as we run the script, you will see that it has printed the variables that we have created in a chronological order. And let us go back to the script's background and let us paste this code snippet that we've created. So in variables, there are different data types. It can hold different types of data like text, numbers, true or false, values, and even objects. So what it does, it gets you organized and how you build your logic at the same time the behavior of your application. And as a user of an application, you will notice that you can be entering or filling out a form, and you have probably filling out a birthday, and the birthday has to be like a calendar type or a date type, and it could be your name, and that is a string type, and it could be multiple records. And what you see here, this is an array or a list of records in a form. And depending on what you need, then you will need to choose the correct variable type to represent the behavior of your script. Now, as you will notice, the string, the structure of a string is enclosed with quotations. And on the number, you can specifically write the number. And on the left, you will see that it's all using the keyword var. So the JavaScript syntax processes and identify the value from the right as it goes to the left. The keyword converts it to the correct variable type. It could be a string, a number, a boolean, an object, or an array. And as you can see on this structure, you have the ID and the value. So this is what we call properties, but this is also another form of variables. And the use cases will vary. And as we move forward, you get to learn the best practices in building applications on when to use a single line of variable, an object, or a date type, depending on the purpose of your application. And now let us run the script. And as you can see that it has printed the values of the variable as expected. And this can be a long form. And this long form, it can be an enrollment form or a registration form. So all of those forms that you see in the front end are contained in a variable processed in the workflow and provides the necessary business rules depending on the purpose. And let us go back to the script pane, and I will paste more examples. So in JavaScript, there are three ways to declare a variable. You can use the var keyword, the let, and also the constant. So the var keyword is quite older, but generally it is most accepted in every JavaScript framework. And eventually we are using the ServiceNow platform, since JavaScript is a general language that you can also use in other platforms like Node.js, React, Document Object Model, and so on. But all of them are the same. JavaScript is a web technology that you can utilize in building the different applications like web application, mobile application, and so on. So the key advantage is that you're working on it in ServiceNow is you get to learn both the syntax and also the ServiceNow platform. If you would like to get a head start on the ServiceNow platform, you can watch my ServiceNow developer and administration, and you can find it at the end of the screen. By behavior, you will see that the let is having a parsing error, and this is something to do with the scope application. And as you change it to a different scope, because the global scope is an older version of ServiceNow JavaScript. But if you move it to the correct scope, which has newer version, then you will see that the red squiggly line has started to disappear. And I'd like you to experiment and use the gs.info that you previously learned and start printing the values of this variable. So let us dig deeper. And as we dig down, the var and the let has different purposes. And you will see that later with more examples so you can have more experience on how and when do you use the let keyword and the var keyword. And as you use the constant variable, it is a fixed value. It cannot be updated like the var keyword containing the variable and also the let. So today we learned comments are notes in code and ignored by the JavaScript syntax. Empty variables show as undefined, and we also provided examples using the gs.info that print results. And variables can hold different types like text, numbers, Boolean, objects, and to name a few. And you can use different keywords to create variables like var, let, constant. If you see value on this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and join as a member and check out my full JavaScript tutorial playlist for more lessons. You will also find that at the end of the screen. I'll see you on my next video.